We are going to be making homemade mustard from the mustard seeds that we harvested in the previous video. Not just any mustard though, we're going to be making a live mustard or a fermented mustard that's full of probiotics. We're going to start off by adding 2.5 cups of warm water to a mason jar, a sterile mason jar, and you want the water to be slightly warm to the touch. Next, we're going to add a tablespoon of brown sugar and a tablespoon of dry active yeast. Now, you could take your mustard seed and everything and put it in the jar with the water at this point without the dry active yeast and hope that a wild yeast culture takes hold. But I found that to be kind of finicky, and for the sake of a foolproof recipe, we're just going to be using dry active yeast. Now we're going to proof our yeast, or prove that it's alive. So over the next 10 minutes, I did this little time-lapse photography, but over 10 minutes, we're going to see just how alive this yeast is. It's actually kind of cool. After 10 minutes, we're going to add a cup of our brown mustard seeds that we harvested and a cup of yellow mustard seeds, 2 tablespoons of salt. Now, these are the important things for this recipe. I did add some spices, and I'll list that in the comments below, but we're going to focus on fermenting the mustard in this. There's a lot of great mustard recipes out there for spices, and I encourage you to go look at those if you're not happy with the spices that I use, but we're going to just focus on the fermentation of the mustard. Now, the reason why I mentioned the salt in this, not only does it flavor the mustard, but it also keeps bad bacteria from forming. So it's a crucial part of this recipe. Now that we got everything thoroughly mixed, what we're going to do next is add a fermentation lid. It's going to fit the wide mouth mason jars. And what this fermentation lid does is it has a rubber seal up top with holes underneath. As your yeast ferments, it creates gas, and the seal allows the gas to escape without letting bad bacteria in or mold. After we get the fermentation lid on tightly, what we're going to do next is just let this sit for 30 to 40 minutes just to make sure the yeast develops a strong active culture within the jar. This is another time-lapse video just to show how active the yeast is. Once we have a well-established yeast culture, what we're going to do now is add this to the refrigerator for 3 to 5 days. Now, this is actually the next day. See all these gas bubbles that it's forming? That's how you know it's working. After your mustard seeds are done fermenting, what you're going to want to do next is add about a cup of vinegar. Now, you could use white wine vinegar. I'm using apple cider vinegar, but the most important thing is you just want to try not to spill it all over your table. Now, the reason why we're adding vinegar at this stage instead of at the beginning is because vinegar will make your yeast go dormant. It will make it to where it doesn't fermentate anymore. So now that we're done with our fermentation process, that's why we add the vinegar at this step. Now, besides adding vinegar to our mustard for flavor, it also acts as an antibacterial. So what we're looking for here is I've got this pH test strip, and what we want to see is our acidity level to be under 4. And that's going to keep bad bacteria from developing within our mustard and extend our shelf life of our mustard. Now you're going to want to put this back in the refrigerator for at least 3 days. And what that's going to do is it's going to help the mustard thicken up. But not only is it going to do that, it's going to take some of the bitterness out of the mustard seed and mellow out the vinegar flavor. Now, the longer you leave it in the refrigerator, the less bitter the mustard seeds are going to get. Sometimes it takes a while, like mine did, because I didn't crack my mustard seeds ahead of time. But I didn't want to do that because I wanted these whole grain, almost like caviar type mustard seeds that I can utilize. Now at this point, if you want a creamy mustard, all you have to do is put this in a food blender and blend it to the consistency you want. Fermenting whole grain mustard seeds gives your mustard a flavor complexity that it wouldn't get otherwise. And it's really good on things like charcuterie or deviled eggs or anything that you would put mustard on. Well, this concludes my tutorial on how to ferment mustard. Thank you so much for watching, and please don't forget to like and subscribe.